What's up guys, and welcome back to episode number 4 of my F1 2020 My Team career, the series where we drive with the Mugen-Honda team as Jenson Button on our road to the top. And massive thank you guys for your support on this series so far. I know we're only 4 episodes in, but it has been fantastic, and if you could leave a like, that would be much appreciated and really help me. And also make sure to subscribe if you're new. Today we get into the Chinese Grand Prix, a circuit which we know well, and hopefully we can improve on last time at Hanoi. Click the I button in the top right corner if you haven't checked that one out. It was only uploaded earlier on today. It was a bit of a disappointing one where we showed some promise battling for P12, but we were a domed, damaged our wing, and that was pretty much race over. And we are starting today's episode with a bit of bad news. We've got our first part failure. F's in the chat, boys. We've had a gearbox durability failure, so that's going to cost us some more resource points. But before we do that, we've got 2 weeks worth of activities to fill. Now, I was a little bit surprised, actually, that there was so long between Hanoi and Shanghai, 2 weeks. But turns out they're nearly 2,000 kilometers away from each other. Geographically, so yeah, sort of understandable why it would be so long. But yeah, we've decided to go for some simulator training for Matsushita, followed by some driver promotional filming to fill that extra day, and then a little funded team event which should boost overall department morale. As I've said before, I think I'm just some sort of engineering sympathiser, because I do love getting that department morale up and yeah, make sure that the parts on the car will be good. We've currently got just over 1,000 resource points. Unfortunately, we're going to have to spend 250 of them on, yeah, just making sure that this durability component will be with us for Shanghai. After it failing, which is a bit of a disappointment, so that leaves us with 770 points. And as with the Works Honda team, we've done quite a lot of work on our powertrain, and we've neglected a bit of the aerodynamics. We're still clearly the second worst team in that department. So we've gone for some secondary wing flaps for 600 resource points, and that should be with us by the time of the Dutch Grand Prix. You may have heard me mention at the end of last episode that we are now at level 5, which means that we've got a new sponsor, which can only be good news. So after having a look at what they all have to offer, I was really drawn towards PSD. They have quite a low weekly income, but in terms of the goal bonus, it's something which is ridiculously easy to do. Just answer 4 questions from the press. And we get a nice little bonus for that. So 63 days, so we're going to sign with PSD. And now the exciting part. New sponsor means a little change to the livery. So this is how sponsors work on F1 2020 My Team. Someone asked in the comments the other day how you position them. So there's 5 different slots, and PSD are going to be placed in slot number 5 because, you know, they're paying us the least amount of money. They're getting a little bit of exposure. So yeah, that is how it works. But now we move on to probably the most baffling part of this video as we advance through the time. We've got a little invitational event at Zandvoort between the Vietnamese and Chinese Grand Prix. You know, just travel to the other side of the world for a week. But we can secure the bag from doing this. We can earn quite a lot of money. So thought, you know, why not? It gives us our first taste of what this circuit is going to be like in the 2010 Red Bull. But of course, you will be seeing it in the next episode of this career mode. Yeah. It was just good to sort of get up to speed. It was only 7.8 kilometres. And I think for driving just a few kilometres, I can't really complain. The money and the acclaim that we get from it. So the money will help us develop the facilities, and of course the acclaim will help us level up quicker and get some more sponsors. And we choose to spend that money straight away because it brings us over the $2 million mark. And we choose to go for the quality control in the chassis department, which will reduce the chance of parts failure in the chassis department down from about 35% to 10%. Talking of new parts, that's what we've got in progress at the moment. That's what we've got sort of due before the Dutch Grand Prix next time out. So all performance parts, nothing durability based. But unfortunately we don't have any upgrades this weekend, which means that we've sort of flattened out on the development curve. And Williams have caught us up, and it looks as if the midfield have also pulled away. So it could be difficult in qualifying and the race. So fresh off the flight back from the Netherlands, we are straight into practice here at the Chinese Grand Prix. And it went pretty well. It was pretty much the same as Vietnam. We finally, again, managed to hook up a good lap for the qualifying pace. And in terms of track acclimatisation, it was pretty easy, obviously, with it being a circuit we've driven a lot before. But struggled a little bit during this middle sector. We're still getting a lot of high-speed understeer in this car, which is one of the reasons why I chose to sort of upgrade the aerodynamics. Because, yeah, it's just really struggling to grip at high speed. But nonetheless, we still managed to come out of that one with a perfect score, just with a few green gates along the way. And, as always, spent most of the time on this race strategy programme. So out of the snail section at the start, we were gaining quite a lot of time. You can see there, 6/10 under our delta in the first sector. And it was this part of the middle sector that we were really struggling with. This double left-hander, you can see, losing about 2 to 3 tenths of a second compared to the delta there. So that's something that we'll have to look at for qualifying and the race. But yeah, still, we were getting on pretty well. You can see over a second below the delta, which means we're finally sort of getting acclimatised to this car and the setups using with it. So all in all, a pretty good session. You can see Matsushita bringing home some resource points as well. Nothing on us, of course. But it brings us up to just under 1,000 in total, which is enough to spend on one new part. Now into qualifying we go, once again joining us in Q1 at the end of the session, as we have been tending to do in this series. So driving out the garage with just a couple of minutes left, and we're currently sat in P18 ahead of our teammate and just behind the two Alpha Tauris. Now last time out we picked Pierre Gasly as our rival, and he's just 2 positions ahead of us, so that really was the target. And you can see Gasly actually directly in front of us on track as well. But yeah, we're going to ride on board for this, the final qualifying lap of Q1. And going now towards turn 1, of course, a very unique turn in terms of the F1 calendar, the tightening snail section of the Shanghai International Circuit. We don't quite clip the apex at turn 1 and turn 2, but as we go through 3 and 4, patient as we get on the throttle, but we are down compared to our previous best time, presumably from not clipping that apex at turn 1. But into turn 6, beautifully kissing the inside and running it slightly onto the curbs, of which we get stuck on a little bit, and that loses us a good couple of tenths of a second before we go through the sweeping left of turn 7 and the sweeping right of turn 8. Of course, this is a section of track where we were losing quite a lot during practice. And you can see we're pretty much equivalent to our previous best qualifying time, but we have managed to gain quite a bit of time through turn 10 and end sector 2 up compared to our previous best sector 2 time. And now as we come through turn 12 and 13, a brilliant little exit, although we're probably only about a tenth of a second quicker than our previous best time, as we now open up the taps of this Honda engine on this, the main back straight of the Shanghai International Circuit, picking our braking point below the Rolex board and getting it turned in, but we missed the apex by quite a way there, and the tail steps out on us on exit. It's been an incredibly messy qualifying lap as we come through the final corner, trying to extract everything we can from the car, but only a little improvement compared to our previous lap, and that means that we line up in P20 on the grid. Incredibly disappointing, and only just ahead of the 2 Williams cars. Our teammate Nobuharu Matsushita very close to making it out of Q1, just over a tenth of a second behind Lando Norris in the McLaren.
It's time to find out which driver is up to the task of claiming the Chinese Grand Prix. We're here in Shanghai. let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday puts him on pole, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, and Norris, Stroll, Raikkonen, Vettel. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Sergio Perez, Giovinazzi, Magnussen, Alexander Albon, and Gasly, Matsushita, Kvyat, Romain Grosjean, and Esteban Ocon. Buchan, Ricciardo, Latifi, and George Russell ends our grid lineup. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Now the weather looks to have held out. It's overcast up above, but unlike Vietnam, it's going to be a dry race by the looks of things, meaning that we're going to have to make one pit stop this afternoon, and that's going to be from the soft to the medium tyres, which will come around lap 5. But now we go on to the formation lap. It's Charles Leclerc on pole. You would have seen from the grid order there's a lot of penalties, including championship leader Sebastian Vettel, as well as Alex Albon. Of course, Vettel currently leading the championship ahead of Hamilton and his teammate Leclerc. And in terms of the constructors' standings, it is Ferrari on top as well. Ourselves, Team Mugen, not quite able to make it off the mark. P14 at the best we've been able to muster so far. Can we improve on that today here at the Shanghai International Circuit? We'll have to find out as the 5 red lights are on here, and away we go. We're straight on the overtake ERS. First time that we've tried that, I believe, in this series, and it seems to have paid dividends as we're going to go all the way around the outside of Esteban Ocon by the looks of it. It's been a good start from Ricciardo, but we managed to still hang it round the outside of quite a few cars, which has got us from 19th up to 17th. As Matsushita is just in front of us. So we managed to gain one position on the grid by sort of being ahead of Ricciardo, who had a grid penalty, and then we've then made up a further 2 positions. So not too bad compared to qualifying, which was pretty dismal, but we just tuck in behind Matsushita for the meantime. This is a side-by-side moment between Albon and one of the Haas cars up ahead, but concentrating on ourselves, we're just going to try and hang behind this pack of cars, which contains the 2 Alpha Tauris, who we've been pretty close to on track in these opening rounds, as Albon still going side by side with Kevin Magnussen by the looks of it, which means that the cars behind them are going to be slower. Now Pierre Gasly goes for a move on Albon, the man that replaced him at Red Bull last season, as we're too preoccupied in looking at that and not enough on our own misdemeanors, as we sort of just about fend off Romain Grosjean. But now at the start of lap 2, we're very much looking forward as the battle is still going on between Gasly and Albon. Albon on the medium compound tyre, one of the only, if not the only, driver to have gone for that strategy, which is why he's not carving his way through the field. And Gasly has managed to get the move done by the looks of it. Yes, he does. He emerges in the picture first, and their battling and squabbling means that we're now a lot closer to Daniel Kvyat. Nobuharu Matsushita is a lot closer to Kvyat. I thought it was ourselves, but of course we are still behind our teammate at the moment. And hopefully we can sort of do a little bit of teamwork and both manage to get ahead. In fact, no, it's not Pierre Gasly that's got ahead of Albon, it's Daniel Kvyat, so they must have switched positions at some point, unless I've made a mistake there. But yeah, nonetheless, a good little bit of battling, although it looks as if Kvyat is a long way behind the Haas car of Kevin Magnussen. So pretty poor pace early on from Alex Albon. But for ourselves, we're going all right at the moment as we look for a move now on our teammate Matsushita, and it's not going to be a difficult move to make by the looks of it, as we use our overtake ERS, and we're going to have the inside line for the hairpin here, although Matsushita brakes very, very late and is going to put up a staunch defence here at turn 14 and 15, and Matsushita is going to have the inside for the final corner at 16, and we're still going to be going side by side, but Matsushita finally backs out of the move, and we managed to get up into 16th position, although you'd imagine Matsushita will go for a move down the inside, will he? He thinks about it, and I think if we weren't his teammate, he may have been a little bit more aggressive, but he thinks better of it. And now next up is Pierre Gasly our rival that we picked last time out in the Vietnam Grand Prix. So it'd be good to get one over on him and earn some acclaim, which of course we can then invest in the team. So in order to try and catch up with him, we're draining that ERS of ours using the overtake button and now the DRS, because we are just within a second of him, but the slipstream effect nowhere near as powerful as on F1 2019, meaning that we don't really get too close to Gasly in the end. And of course he has DRS as well on his teammate Daniel Kvyat. Looks as if Albon's started to pick up the pace a bit now. He's back past the two AlphaTauris, as we've got a few cars in the pits very early in the race. Although having said that, we're scheduled to come in at the end of this lap, so if we can just sort of try and close up to Gasly as much as possible, then we can take it to the pit stops, and that is exactly what we have managed to do. We're coming now into the infamous pit lane where Lewis Hamilton dropped it in the gravel back in 2007, but we have a brilliant entry into the pit lane right on the tail of Pierre Gasly, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on the AlphaTauri pit crew. Our pit guys pretty good in the first two rounds of the season. They weren't needed last time out in Vietnam with it being a wet race, but what can they do this time? It's a 2-second stop. Thank you very much. We are out ahead of Pierre Gasly, and I tell you what, the pit guys have done us a real service so far this season. They managed to get us out ahead of Carlos Sainz in Australia, and they've done it once again here in China, getting us ahead of Pierre Gasly. And we're currently P17 on track, but there's still a few cars left to pit, and that is a crucial move in getting us ahead of our rival. So you can see Nicholas Latifi, Nobuharu Matsushita and Daniel Kvyat all in the pits, and we have leapt both AlphaTauris in that pit stage, which is really, really good. But now as we look slightly ahead of ourselves on lap 7 of the Grand Prix, we have got a lovely battle between the two cars of Sebastian Vettel and Lando Norris. Of course, Vettel started quite low down due to his grid penalty, but look at that, some side-by-side action in the middle sector, and then you've got the two Racing Point cars of Stroll and Perez just sort of chilling and waiting for the action to unfold. They're just ahead of the two Alfa Romeo cars, followed by the Haas of Kevin Magnussen, and then it is ourselves in just slotted in behind Magnussen. So that just gives you an idea of where we are in the running order, currently sat in P14. So we're sort of in a battle for P11 here, because the two Alfa Romeos are sat in 11th and 12th place. I think the Racing Point cars are probably just going to be a little bit too quick, and then the McLaren and McLaren and Ferrari just ahead of that are definitely going to be too fast for us. But still, I think we've got a good chance of at least battling for this P11 on track. We've still got those two AlphaTauri cars behind us, but we are in the DRS of Kevin Magnussen, which means we are very much turning our focus ahead of us, braking now into the hairpin at turn 14. Get it turned in pretty nicely there, but still not really managing to gain anything on that straight. Magnussen and the two Alfa Romeos all have the Ferrari engine in the back, which is, on this game, more powerful than the Honda engine. You could question whether that's the case in real life, but in this game, it is the most powerful engine that you can get. Nonetheless, we're giving it our all. We're using our overtake button to try and get as close as possible to Kevin Magnussen, but once again, we tried it on lap 7 and lap 8, but on lap 9, it is unfortunately the same result. Again, no overtake this time. We're close to getting out of DRS range of the car behind, Pierre Gasly. He's just about 9/10 of a second behind us, so if we can have a good lap this time, then we should be able to drop him and very much turn our focus forward. But you can see it's just so difficult for us to be making any sort of overtaking manoeuvre, as we're all so evenly paced by the looks of it. Unfortunately, Pierre Gasly is still in our DRS, as the Alfa Romeos just sort of slowing us down a little bit, but not enough for us to make an overtaking move. Although we are very, very close to Kevin Magnussen here, as close as we've been so far, and we brake late, probably too late, it has to be said, And Pierre Gasly says, thank you very much for that position. I didn't have to work at all for that. And that is a little bit infuriating, if I'm being honest. We worked so hard to get on the tail of Kevin Magnussen, and then we go and blow it by just making a stupid late braking move, and we try and go all the way around the outside of Gasly and get the position straight back. But unfortunately, he shuts the door on us there, and he does in turn 2 as well, meaning that all the good work that our pit crew did for us is unravelled. So apologies, pit guys, as now Daniel Kvyat comes racing past us. Where on earth did that come from? And I say, oh, I'm not having that, and just jump right back down his inside. So yeah, that was a little bit strange. We got a terrible drive, I assume, out of turn 4. So we're just going to have to stick back within DRS range of Pierre Gasly through this middle sector, and there's a real train that's starting to form behind Antonio Giovinazzi. And we are, unfortunately, close to the back of that train. Just less than a second behind Gasly, which means that we just about cop the DRS, which is absolutely vital, because as soon as you drop out of that, it's pretty much game over when you're in a train of cars. As there's a yellow flag up ahead by the looks of it, and it is Lance Stroll who's going slowly, which has released Alex Albon and his teammate Sergio Perez. So it looks as if he's going to try and limp back to the pits maybe, but he's going very, very slowly, and he's on the racing line into the final corner, which has slowed down one of the Alfa Romeos of Kimi Raikkonen, and that has actually done us a bit of a favour with Pierre Gasly almost going into Lance Stroll. So Stroll's pulled over and is out of the race, but this has given us a brilliant opportunity to go down the inside of Pierre Gasly into turn 1, and brilliant overtaking manoeuvre there. We were very fortunate, but it was still a nice move down the inside of Gasly, and that has put us within striking distance once again of Kevin Magnussen and Kimi Raikkonen. So we've now got about 2.5 laps left in this Grand Prix. A points finish is looking out of the question, because Giovinazzi managed to get past Stroll before he became a moving obstruction. But still, P11 is very much on if we can make a move on Magnussen pretty soon. So we're getting a lot of wheel spin out of the hairpin. We have done in every lap, but still we're managing to keep the car pointing in the right direction. And for the first time, are we going to try a move into turn 1 on Kevin Magnussen? No, we're just slightly too far behind, but he takes quite a wide line there. So we're going to try and dive it down the inside of turn 2 as he tries to cut us off, and he takes the favourable inside line into turn 3 and 4. And the Haas car is going to stay ahead of us for the meantime, as we use the overtake button to try and get down the inside of him at turn 6, but no. He manages to just about stay ahead. Hopefully Magnussen's brakes go like they always do in the Haas cars on the final lap, because that would be a pretty easy overtaking manoeuvre, but looks as if the Haas brakes are holding out, which, terrible realism, Codemasters, I'll tell you what. But anyway, we turn round the final corner to start the final lap of this Grand Prix, and we get a great drive into turn 1, because Magnussen is out of the DRS of Kimi Raikkonen up ahead, so we seize the opportunity to go down his inside and take P12, which is the best position which I think we've been in all of this series so far, 4 races in. So we will take that. Thank you very much, Kevin Magnussen. And now we've got a 1.1 second gap to close on Kimi Raikkonen. But just looking ahead, this is the battle for P2 between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. And I thought I'd just include this because it was a brilliant battle. Bearing in mind, this is now coming up to the final corner. The two of them almost side by side, but Verstappen gets it turned in first. Hamilton, though, has the DRS, and it is a drag race to the line. And Lewis Hamilton, who is in a championship battle, has just gained an extra 3 points, which could be crucial come the end of the season. But ourselves, we just couldn't quite manage to close up to Kimi Raikkonen. But it's P12 for us. A very good result, it has to be said, especially considering our starting position and how terrible we were in qualifying. And we get driver of the day as well, which is always a nice added bonus. But the man that nobody could stop today was Charles Leclerc. He was number 1, as he's pointing out to the crowd, with, yeah, a good race for him. And that's 4 out of 4 victories for Ferrari.
Ferrari are at it again. An excellent performance at today's Grand Prix. And they're certainly a team that know what they're doing out there.
Once again, they said that in the last 2 episodes. Ferrari are a team who know what they're doing. Not much like real life at all, as Leclerc absolutely drenches his engineer. But then so does Hamilton on Leclerc. Now, Hamilton looks pretty happy, and who wouldn't be after snatching a position right on the line. You can see the gap between them is less than half a tenth of a second, with Valtteri Bottas coming home in 4th. Vettel, a very good recovery drive, in 5th, ahead of the 2 McLarens, with Albon, Perez and Giovinazzi rounding out the points. Good for us, 19th up to 12th, as we also managed to finish ahead of our rival, Pierre Gasly. Unfortunately for Matsushita, who started up in P15 after a brilliant qualifying, he could only manage 19th place, so yeah, his setup must have been tuned a lot more for qualifying, whereas ours was much more geared towards the race. And as we look at the constructors' standings, sorry, the drivers' standings first, Leclerc now just 1 point behind Lewis Hamilton, with Vettel still leading the way. And we've moved ahead of Romain Grosjean, which is, I suppose, a little bit of consolation in the driver's standings. But yeah, Team Mugen, I think that's how you pronounce it, still 10th in the standings behind AlphaTauri. That's got to be our goal. Just get like a P11 or a P10, and that would be brilliant. So after making sure we spoke to the press after our racing action in order to please our sponsors, that was it for the race weekend. 4-2 against Pierre Gasly, which takes us to 9-all in the standings with 5 races to go. Hopefully we can beat him overall. As you can see, our acclaim goes up by quite a decent amount, and that means that we move up to level 6 now, by the looks of it, and we get a lovely bit of cash from both of our sponsors for meeting their goals. And overall, I think a pretty successful progressive weekend, up to 1.58 million, which we'll be able to spend before too long. And that is it for the Chinese Grand Prix. Thank you so much for everyone that has been watching for this long. I will catch you in my next video, where we'll be taking on the brand new track of Zandvoort. But until then, guys, do take care. Bye bye.